Right, thanks for coming, everyone. First of all, thanks for taking the time out to be a part and obviously give your opinions later on. Like we said in the last meeting and everything we've done, really, we just need to make sure we keep things sensible and nothing daft gets said, no daft ideas that are going to land anyone in hot water. It's worked brilliantly up to now, so got to keep it on the same path. Sorry that we had to postpone again. Obviously, as you can see, there's quite a decent amount of numbers in here. There was a lot of people who requested us to do it on Teams or Zoom. We thought that was the best option. So I'll just quickly go through the agenda and we'll let Dave Kelly from the Shareholders Association get going. We'll try.
Yep.
Sorry, it went off done for some reason. Yeah, I'll just get going through the agenda and then we can get going. So we're starting off with Dave Kelly, who's a part of the Shareholders Association, and he's also got some things to discuss relating to the FAB, which I think there's a couple of FAB members in here. Well, we've got then a recording from Kieran Maguire, which I'm sure most of you have seen as media releases relating to the auditors that have been auditing Everton over the last decade or so. So he couldn't make the Zoom, but he's done as a voice clip, just trying to basically explain what the issues are and why they're alarming. And then Ped from Toffee TV and Ben from View from the Bullens will give a couple of personal views and they'll speak about the feedback that they receive from fans online. Obviously, both accounts have got a large following, which can't really be said to be a small part of the fan base. You're talking over 100,000 people between them, so it'll be interesting to see what opinions they've got and what the opinions they get put to them from the vast amount of Evertonians that follow them. Then I'll have a quick chat on myself about the accounts, try and have a bit of a breakdown of them and basically highlight what the issues are. That's the information that's come from the NSNR group. And obviously I'm sure you've all seen them and everyone knows what the issues are, but it's a bit of a breakdown, and then we'll go into the 1878 rep, which would be Dave Wishley. So he'll give his personal view on the club and then speak about the plans for the remainder of the season in terms of the atmosphere and visual efforts inside Goodison. And then Katie will go on to talk about the plans for the remaining home games in terms of protests and marches. And we'll go to an open floor, try and get some further ideas, some fundraising ideas and stuff like that, and hopefully let's try and move things. One of the reasons for me personally doing this is to try and move things on. We've got solid numbers every week, I think we're making a difference. We just need to have a little bit of a more push. So I'll hand it over to Dave. Come on, Dave.
Cheers, thanks for that, Chris. I think it's always difficult to kick it all off, so I'll start talking about my favourite subject first of all, me. I'm probably one of the privileged ones that Bill Kenwright speaks about, one of the ones who's been fortunate enough to see some success. I attended my first game at Goodison Park in 1966 for an Everton Man United game a couple of weeks before the FA Cup final. Next season will see me celebrate my 50th anniversary of being a season ticket holder. In January 2006, I took the decision to try and get even more involved than I had been previously, and I purchased a share and became a shareholder. And 2 years later, I got elected onto the executive committee of the Shareholders Association, and I'm currently the chair of the organisation. I'm very proud and honoured to hold that position. I'm very proud and honoured that Everton Football Club Shareholders Association is the oldest in world football, like many other things that our club has done and continues to do. We were the first. So Shareholders Association has got a long and proud track record and it's prided itself on being a watchdog to the club, so they don't particularly go out and campaign. They've been fortunate enough over the years to be in a privileged position whereby they have quarterly meetings with the CEO, directors, and the senior management team. And that's been the case for almost the entirety since 1938, apart from a short blip when our current chairman decided that he was going to abandon, postpone, and no longer have any AGMs, that they were no longer willing to take part in scrutiny by the Shareholders Association. I thought it was a really interesting decision that he made, and I don't fully understand why he made that decision, like I haven't understood many decisions that he's made. One of the reasons he cited at the time was that the meetings had become quite raucous, and that the meetings had been infiltrated by people using proxies. My response to that has always been quite simple. In the preceding years, where he claims that the meetings were raucous and bad-tempered, the chairman, who's got the power to suspend people from the meeting, to get people removed from the meeting, or warn them about their conduct, had never once warned anybody about their behaviour. So I think, once again, it was just a convenience excuse, so they could be in a position where they didn't go and become victims of further scrutiny by the shareholders. I think one of the starting figures, and I think what possesses anybody to become a shareholder and buy a pound share in Everton Football Club? Well, I'm telling you now, it's not something that's got a monetary value when you're paying £3,500 for something with a monetary value of £1. People buy shares in Everton Football Club because of the emotional bond. That piece of paper's worth nothing. Someone can offer me any money they want for my share. I won't be selling it. It's not for sale. But it's interesting, note that the Shareholders Association shareholders have invested £5 million in Everton Football Club to purchase their shares. And I think how disrespectful of the board of directors and the owner of Everton Football Club to actually cancel AGMs and no longer give us the opportunity to scrutinise the accounts and to ask any pertinent questions and question them about simple everyday things that shareholders have done since 1938. So Bill Kenwright joined the board in '89, as we all know, became the majority shareholder in '99. He then suspended the AGMs for a period of 7 years, which eventually got reinstated. He then managed to pull off the wonderful achievement of finding the billionaire that all Evertonians wished that we had someone to come and invest in the club, and sold out to Farhad Moshiri, 49%, as we all know. Moshiri increased the shares and now currently owns 94% of their shares within the club, and basically can do anything he wants with the business, irrespective of what the board say, irrespective of what the senior management team say, and irrespective of, I believe, Everton Football Club's greatest single asset is its fans. He can basically do what he wants. The last AGM that Everton held was in the early part of January 22, and it was a virtual meeting, and it was probably the best attended shareholders meeting in a very, very, very long time. And we actually sat down and had discussions with the club afterwards. and the club gave us numerous commitments and promised us a number of things, and he basically listened to our arguments, and we said and stated the Shareholders Association isn't opposed to a hybrid meeting. It makes sense to do meetings online, particularly with a lot of shareholders living overseas, that we needed to make sure that them meetings were meetings that as many people as possible could take part in. And the club agreed with that. Later on that year, Everton Football Club decided that it was going to change its articles of association. Now, the articles of association is the tool and the mechanism that enables the Shareholders Association via an EGM, an emergency general meeting, to get AGMs reinstated. So it was actually enshrined in the Articles of Association that Everton Football Club would hold an annual general meeting every single year. And if you want to go on the company's house website and actually look at clause 10.1, clearly states, once in every calendar year, the company shall call a general meeting. Well, it hasn't, and it didn't in 2022. And I think the likelihood of something happening in 2023 is highly unlikely. And when we talk about changing the Articles of Association, it's a fait accompli anyway, because you're entitled to one vote per share. So given that the share he owns 90%, 94% of the shares, it was something that was never going to happen. Anyway, I think rather than going all about historically what's happened in previous years, I think that many of you will no doubt be aware that the Shareholders Executive Committee held a Zoom call with Fahad Masheri and Bill Kenwright in July of last year, one pleasant Sunday afternoon. That was the first time that Fahad Masheri had actually met the Shareholders Association, and to the best of my knowledge, it was the first time that he'd actually met a group of fans. The meeting covered a lot of grounds and a lot of issues, and in fairness to Masheri, he appeared to be quite open. He appeared to be quite transparent. That's the meeting where he famously made the comment that if we need a centre forward, we'll go and get a centre forward. Don't judge us on a transfer window that hasn't closed. Judge us on it when it's closed. He closed the meeting by saying that he enjoyed the contributions that the Shareholders Association had made, and was at a loss to understand why it'd taken so long to actually meet the association. So that was the last Sunday in July. The following Friday, Everton were due to play Dynamo Kiev in a pre-season friendly, and Fahad Masheri promised us that he would meet the Shareholders Association face to face, and that we could formally meet each other and we could have a discussion and look at where the club's at and just generally discuss club business. So it became it was a huge disappointment on Thursday before the Dynamo Kiev game, on the Friday when the club contacted us to say that Fahad Masheri unfortunately had to change his travel plans, and that he wouldn't be in attendance at the game, but he would be in touch in the near future, and that he would fix a date off for a meeting so we could discuss all the elements, whether it be funding for the stadium and all the other concerns that we discussed. Sat back for a couple of months. I think it was about 6 weeks we waited. Nothing. then sent the chairman and the majority shareholder a letter via snail mail, which wasn't responded to. We then sent letters to the club, recorded delivery, which weren't responded to. So after umpteen letters and emails, I received a phone call of Bill Kenwright. It was probably the last week in December, it was just before Christmas. And he apologised for not responding. He said that he hadn't had the opportunity to read the correspondence that I'd sent him. And he spent a lot of time talking about himself and the state of his health, which I won't go into because he told me a lot of things which he probably shouldn't have done, which will remain private between me and him. And I actually said, that's some luck, you don't have to share all that. You've got my empathy. I know myself because I've got my own health problems, so I fully empathise there with where you're at. He asked me, could I give him 10 days? And he would respond. So that was left. So the 10 days came and went. And I was going to contact him, and I thought, no, I'm not going to contact him on the 10th day. And it was 15 days later, the first week in January, when I contacted him, which was 11 working days rather than the 10 days that he, and I sent him a text message. Text message was really brief. Are you well enough to take my call? The text message remained unanswered. The Saturday night, Bill Kenwright rang me, spoke about his favourite subject again and said that his health had improved slightly, but he still wasn't well, and that he thought the best way to progress the problems that we had and we were having was for him to give me Farhad Masheri's email address, and for Denise Barrett-Baxendale, he was going to tell her to call me. Well, that coincided with the Walton Strangler going on the loose that weekend, and the club going into total meltdown and not engaging with anybody or anything. So on the basis that there's a total lockdown on everything and no one is speaking, I contacted Richard Kenyon, who'd kindly forwarded Farhad Masheri's email address to me, and I asked him, could he confirm that Farhad Masheri had received the email I sent him? Could he also confirm the quarterly dates for the shareholders' meetings, given that we hadn't had one since September of the previous year when we only had 2 instead of the 4 that they committed to? 5 weeks later, he responded and acknowledged receipt of my email and said that he'd get back to me with dates. Unfortunately, in spite of speaking to him on a number of occasions, the last time 2 weeks ago at a FAB meeting, they still haven't responded and still haven't offered any dates, which personally I think is an absolute dereliction of duty. Whilst all this has been going on, the Shareholders Association have attempted to do many things, and most of you will probably be aware of the online petition that we organised, which disappointingly I think hovered around £14,000. 14,000 I thought a lot more people would have supported that, but hey, oh, there we go with that. So we're still in a state of limbo. We're still waiting for hard copies of the accounts. So we've been sent the electronic version. In previous years, we always received a hard copy in the post, so we could scrutinise them and have a look at them well in advance. And I think I think the real important thing about all of this is I firmly believe 100% that at some stage, somewhere, someone from Everton Football Club needs to hand out an olive branch and start speaking to the wider fan base, to the Shareholders Association, to the FAB, to the Fans Forum, whoever, but they need to start dialogue. It's no longer an option to sit back and do nothing. The other thing I would like to say, and I think it's really important, and I've quite deliberately never gone down the line or the route of attacking individuals or personalities, stick totally to the issues. And as an official of a trade union, I often go into workplaces and represent employees who've got problems, got health problems. And I'll pose this question to people on here tonight. Everton Football Club's HR department has got a duty of care to every single one of its employees. They've got an employee who is 77 years of age. He's not in the best of health. He told me that he was suffering from a brain tumour and that he'd lost his vision. And I would suggest that any caring, compassionate employer would do the decent thing, and they would actually take him out of the firing line and send him on gardening leave until his health improves, and appoint an interim chairman. And that needs to happen, and that should have happened months and months and months and months ago. We can't continue with an absent board, an absent chairman, an absent chief executive officer, and an absent finance director. And that tells me, whilst we're currently leaderless and rudderless, this club's going to stumble from crisis to crisis. And I think that's the message that we need to be getting out there loud and clear, that our dysfunctional football club needs to start engaging with its greatest asset, which is its fan base. Everton Football Club may well go and waive documents about where they appear in Premier League surveys about fan engagement. But fan engagement can be a box ticking exercise, or, in my opinion, fan engagement can be full and meaningful dialogue rather than a box ticking exercise. And that's the route that this football club needs to go down. And I'll finish on saying this simply: I want our Everton back. Thanks very much for the time.
Nice one, Dave. Brilliant, that. Well done. So, you all right to do a couple of questions, Dave? If anyone's got any questions?
Yeah, no problem at all, Chris.
Yeah, we'll keep it to 2 or 3 questions. Have we had any in, Gem, or are we just gonna open the floor and ask people put their hands up?
There is one in the chat, Chris. There's one about the AGM in the chat.
Yeah, one sec. In the chat on Teams?
Yeah.
Are you asking, Hannah? I can't see.
Okay. It just says.
Oh, there it is.
Is it generally the AGMs are enshrined in companies' constitutional documents?
Yeah, I think the questions above that. Basically,
I can't see all the question, Anne, but basically, what Amos is saying is correct to a degree, or was correct, but it's no longer the case. I said earlier on in the presentation that Everton Football Club actually change the Articles of Association. One of the problems you've got with Everton Football Club, with them being a private company, there's no legal requirement for them to hold AGMs. Now, private companies who do hold AGMs, they're not legally or duty bound to do it. They do it out of the goodness of their hearts. So, as I said, Farhad Masheri moved the vote to change the Articles of Association. And given that you're not voting on a one member, one vote, you're a one member owns 94% of the shares. So when the vote is cast, he ends up with 34,500 votes in favour, and all the small shareholders who are the ones who are being inconvenienced by the change of the Articles of Association. And that's why previously, during the Destination Kirby campaign, we managed to force through a number of votes in the room on the night, and the votes were carried unanimously by people who were in attendance on the floor, and the board then had the opportunity to call a card vote and use their block votes to overturn what was going on from the floor. So I hope that answers the question.
I think you've answered both brilliantly, Dave. Yeah. So the next one, TM's asked about the auditors. That'll be picked up in the next thing, the voice note from after Dave. So I think that's for Annie. We'll do the last one here. There's two there. So I think Tarkowski, I think that's for Annie. Dave is a member of the union and a shareholder. Could you or the shareholders apply pressure on the HR departments and their duty of care regarding the sick member of staff you mentioned?
Probably not, to be honest with you. I think in fairness to Everton Football Club and their HR department, first thing they'd say to you is, well, it's a private matter between the employer and the employee. So they certainly wouldn't be answerable to us. But I think, to be honest with you, whether you like or dislike Bill Kenwright, if he's got a brain tumour and he's recently lost his sight, although I understand that his vision is back now, you do the humanitarian thing and you take him out the firing line, wouldn't you? And I'd say similarly about all the others who've gone, hey, well, I don't know if they're off work with stress. I don't know where they are or what they're doing, but they're certainly not being accountable to the Shareholders Association, and they're not being accountable to the wider fan base.
And to be honest, Dave, the family as well. I'm sure the family would agree with everything. Well, I'm sure any of Kenwright's family would agree with everything you're saying.
But the point about who I think the board have already gone, it just hasn't been announced. I think they went a while ago, to be honest with you, and it can't be announced because it'll only get announced when they've got replacements for them, and they're not going to appoint replacements for them till MSP or some other investor actually invests in the club and puts their people in place, and that day can't come soon enough. We can't continue being leaderless and rudderless. And I made the point there at the FAB meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I don't think any of us, and I mean anyone who's on this call tonight, shouldn't forget the fact that whilst we've got no leadership whatsoever at this football club, I think in the main, the vast majority of staff are doing an incredibly good job in really difficult circumstances. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, there's a tendency to want to shoot the messenger. We shouldn't be. They're doing a really difficult job in difficult circumstances. I don't think any blame should be apportioned to paid employees. It's right to the board of directors where we should be venting our anger.
Yeah, just the extortionately paid ones. So I will go. Han, can you do the Kieran's voice recording? So this is a voice recording from Kieran Maguire. He's a football finance expert. He actually works in Liverpool. He's not an Evertonian. He's not. I think he supports Brighton, but he's it's a decent clip. So we'll listen to that and then we'll move on. So you can play that, Han, please.
The job of the auditor is to check that the accounts broadly make sense, appear to be roughly accurate, and ideally they contain no frauds or errors. auditors, with like dentists, you don't tend to change them unless you're unhappy with them or they're unhappy with you. Until 2019, Everton were using Deloitte, who are the second biggest accounting firm in the country. They've got a pretty big reputation. They've certainly got a big reputation in football, as the Deloitte Money League often proves. They changed in 29 and they moved to a company called BDO, who are the sixth biggest. Now, it could be that Everton felt they could get better value for money. If you take a look, the audit fees fell from £59,000 to £49,000. Normally, in the first few years of an audit, you're losing money on the job. And the reason for this is that you're not familiar with the way that the club or the company operates, and therefore it takes you time to become familiar with the systems, with the people, building up relationships. And it's like everything else, it's those relationships which are important. We did see, I think it was in around about October 2022 in The Guardian, an article saying that BDO were increasingly unhappy in terms of their relationship with Everton, especially issues to do with a former partner of the club owner, whose assets had been sanctioned by the UK government, and therefore they were thinking of walking away. A representative for Farhad Mashiri said, "That's nonsense, you're just stirring," and everybody then forgot about the story. Then the accounts were prepared for 2022, and now we have a third set of auditors in 4 years, called Crowe UK, and they are the 14th biggest. So again, they're not, they're an international firm. Are Everton getting better value for money? Well, the audit fee's now gone up to 69,000. Remember, BDO were doing it 2 years previously for 49. So it's not being done to save money. It could be that BDO just feel uncomfortable with the Everton brand, where it is at present. As far as the new auditors are concerned, I don't think there's any evidence that they are going to be under the thumb of the club, because the auditors have made it very clear in the audit report that they have reservations with regards to Everton's ability to continue as a going concern should the club be relegated. The reason for that is that Everton have borrowed money. There are clauses in the contract. There are clauses in the lending contract that say in the event of relegation, potentially money might have to be repaid. Farhad Mashiri could say, I will cover those potential repayments, but he doesn't appear to have contractually committed himself to do so. And that's where the uncertainty lies. The only other club that has changed auditors more often than, or as often as Everton in the past few years is West Bromwich Albion. Now, West Bromwich Albion have been in the news regularly from a financial point of view because the club has lent money to the owner and the owner has failed to repay it on numerous occasions. So, again, what the auditors don't want to do is that they don't want to tarnish their reputation, because like most jobs, you're as good as your rep. And if you are seen to be associated with a failing company or a company in which there is a breakdown in trust, then what the auditors tend to do is to walk away.
Right, so yeah, so that I'll just explain again here who Kieran is. So Kieran's basically, he's an author and a broadcaster. He specialises in the accountancy of football clubs, and he wrote the book The Price of Football, which I'm sure you would have seen recently. He does a podcast relating to it as well. That he's been talking about Everton, Man City, and stuff, basically Leeds stuff, Rangers. If you have a Google of him, you'll see that he's very, very well respected. What he said there is basically that there's no genuine reason why Everton would change the auditors. It'd be the auditors who are walking away because they're not happy with something that's going on. He alluded to the Guardian write-up alluded to, obviously, husband of who Mashiri used to be on paper related to. So you can make it that way you will, but I'm sure if you look into what he's saying, he's a well respected author and well respected, journalist really. So it's for me, it's just ridiculous that we auditors are walking away. Our books are that as bad as they are, and we've now just been hit with possible points, deductions, fines, whatever it might be, due to failing to adhere to financial fair play. It just all points in the same direction, and the club's in meltdown. So we'll move on. I think we'll start with Ped. That's all right, Ped. Who's going to give his views? Thanks.
Yeah. So it's hard to know where to begin, to be honest, when you're talking about media and Everton. Certainly from my point of view. If anyone doesn't know, I've been a independent source of media for 13 years. I started with a podcast called The Folletonians, where I got into trouble with the club. Was once sent a cease and desist letter for putting the animated images of Everton players on T-shirts. Again, no one could just give us a ring. We had to get a letter from a solicitor. Moved on to doing the Blue Room after doing Radio Merseyside, and you know, I've been doing Toffee TV for now nearly 9 years, and it is now a full-time job for both of us. The word Dave just said, the word there, engagement at Everton Football Club is absolutely atrocious, and has been for literally the whole time I've been part of what I've been doing. The only person who has ever changed that is Alan Myers, who is possibly one of the best signings Everton have ever made, and then obviously went on to let him go, which is normally the case. Alan Myers basically brought people like myself into the fold. He understood the future of media and understood where it was going, and he understood keeping people close to you, that, you know, voices within the fan base, keeping them close to you and talking to them, and not, by the way, not in a way by any means to almost try to curry favour with them. He just brought them in because he thought it was the right thing to do. He thought it was right to have people just speak how they wanted to speak, and obviously if there was a lot of engagement then amongst the fans and the club, and this was obviously around the time of Roberto Martinez, and we'd done a couple of really successful interviews with Roberto Martinez, and the only manager, funny enough, we've spoke to since was Frank Lampard, in between the ill-fated Bournemouth games earlier on in the season. But Everton they're just terrible to deal with. They're just, to coin a Bill Kenwright phrase, they're just, for someone like myself, who obviously doesn't have the backup of a national media organisation, or has any kind of right to be in a meeting with Everton, they're just really, really bad to deal with. They love you when they've got something to sell or something to push, and you know, often over the last few years, lots of people have believed we are in the club's pocket because once a year they give us a shirt to basically review and use our the numbers we have to try and use it as a glorified advert. But they're just awful to deal with. They don't want to give you anything, and they don't want to engage with you, and they don't want you to have anything that they don't already have. And this has led to, on many occasions, when we've independently sourced interviews, whether it be when I was doing the Folletonians, and I think we had Tim Howard on once, and Everton went out their way to get an interview with Tim Howard. When we had Landon Donovan exclusive, Everton actually used some of the quotes on the interview, but never actually sourced them back to us at the time. And it simply comes down to them being terrified of speaking to the fans. And going back to, again, what Dave said there before, there's some absolutely amazing people who work for Everton. There's people I've come across that are unbelievable at the job, and they are stopped from doing their job. Certainly in you know, this, where we are now, in a completely social media dominated landscape, they are stopped from doing their jobs by the board, by people who don't understand it. Bill Kenwright and you know, the rest of the board, who don't understand the modern way of communicating with its fan base. They are terrified of the fan base. It's as simple as that. We've seen that recently with the stadium. with the news of the stadium. You know, I highlighted yesterday on my Twitter account that there was a little piece within the release of the Euro 2028 piece saying that the stadium will be ready during the 2024-25 season. The club have yet to failed so far to demonstrate to the fans, to come out to the fans and say to us exactly when our stadium is going to be ready. You know, the thing, our big shiny thing that's keeping us all going, they've yet to speak to us about that. They do not update us on that. They do not update people like myself. They actually promised us a stadium tour before all this stuff kicked off, by the way. They're really, really good at promising you things. They're really, really good at dangling a carrot in front of people like myself. Because what they don't have with people like myself and other people like us is they don't have any control. They have nothing to hold over us. When they have journalists from Sky and Radio Merseyside and Radio 5, they have the ability to pull interviews away from them. Their bread and butter. The lads from the Athletic, who obviously need that constant stream of stories coming out of the club. We don't need that. We can say what we want every single day. I don't need another interview from Everton ever again the rest of my life. I will get on quite well by speaking to fans, speaking to ex-players, speaking to journalists. We'd be fine. But what they constantly do is they hang that carrot over you. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. This was demonstrated last year when we spent a hell of a lot of money to go to America to follow the club in America. Only one of 3 media organisations over there, ourselves, the Liverpool Echo, and the Athletic. One of only 2 actually that covered the game in Minnesota. It was held over us the entire time we were there. We will give you an interview with Frank Lampard. We will give you an interview with Frank Lampard. Don't worry, we will keep it. We will keep it. When we went the first game, when we were in Baltimore, we were restricted from what we were actually allowed to do by us being given this interview with James Tarkowski, but we were actually stopped from talking to the manager, and it was held over our heads the whole time. Needless to say, we never got the interview with Frank Lampard simply because Frank Lampard was too pissed off, basically, with us getting beat 4-0. So he walked away from an interview, and we were left high and dry, as were the Liverpool Echo. And they do this consistently as a football club. They will come and say, "We'll give you this, we'll give you that." But when push comes to shove, they will not give it. And yet they are the first people to give you a call when you've said something. So a few weeks ago, I said something about the Fab, and straight away I've got someone on the phone saying you can't say that. And it's crazy. It's crazy. We until recently, we wanted to be as professional as we possibly could, which I understood some people in the fan base didn't quite like, felt like we were in the club's pocket. We've never been in the club's pocket. Anyone who knows me and knows how I have attacked the board for the last 12 years or so will know that. But we've always tried to keep it professional as much as we possibly could. We didn't get personal. When the 27 campaign was going on, we sort of, even though we believed in it, we didn't quite get the 27 campaign. So we just kept ourselves. We talked about it. We wanted to allow other people to talk about it, but we wanted to keep a step back. And I think the club enjoyed that. They thought, well, these are not talking about it. So they did give us Frank Lampard in the end. It was October now. They give us a couple of bits here and there. They come in, they talk to us about what we wanted going forward. They gave us promises that would never played out, would never ever play out. The minute we signed that letter in January, radio silence, absolute radio silence. Instead of coming to us and saying, right, what is the issue? What can we do? How can we help? What do we need to do? Radio silence, like Dave said before. And this is the club. This is what the club do consistently. The media team obviously get instructed to just go dark, and it's ridiculous because I don't know any other football club who does this. I don't know any other football club that takes it personally when people have a go at them, when people pull people on the state of the football club. How any of that board now can sit there and think they've done a good job, or don't understand why people like myself would be talking about them every single day when you look at the results on the pitch. And this isn't also a personal thing. This is a feedback thing as well. You know, we've got nearly 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've got 50,000 on Instagram, 76,000 on Twitter. These people, we listen and look all the time at what the feedback is. We wouldn't go in a direction that alienated are the people who watch us or the people who listen to us to a point where those people would turn off. We're gonna follow the path of where those people want us to go. We're gonna listen to what those people are talking about. That if they're talking about it, we're gonna talk about it. That's the way media works. And everybody is talking. Everyone we listen to, everyone we look at is talking about the board, the communication, the lack of engagement, the lack of coming back to us and speaking on when important matters are happening. And as I said, the stadium's a massive one, I think, because it is the big shiny thing. It is the thing that keeps us all going. It's the thing that if the board have got anything to say, that look what we did right, it's that stadium. And yet they can't even tell us, or just can't be adults enough to go, boys and girls, this stadium might not be ready for the beginning of the next season, because I think we'd all sort of in our minds put ourselves at Goodison for next season and said that's our next season. Let's be emotionally ready for that. And now we're being told, well, actually, next season at Goodison mightn't be the last season, and that causes anger because people then feel cheated. Well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with that season? What's going to happen with our tickets? What's going to happen with how we leave Goodison Park? Such a big thing, and for that one thing, they can't even get it right. I just can't understand that. They've got 101 thing I've just seen it. They've got 115 people in the media team, and honest to God, I put out more content with 3 people on a daily basis than they do. So I don't know where all that money's going. I really don't. But it's that word. It's engagement. Dave used it before. It's engagement. It's coming back when problems, or this club's got loads of problems, but the club just want to go away, just stay away, close the doors, put the shutters up. You know, Kevin Felwell, I believe he spoke to the Fab recently. What did he say? Where did he say it? How did it come across? When are we going to hear that? Why hasn't he spoken with the club? Why hasn't he spoken to Sky? I mean, never mind someone like me or Baz. Why hasn't he spoke to one of the major media companies? You know, it's such a mixed, weird place. Everton are regularly giving interviews to people like the Daily Mail, who continue lie about Everton on a daily basis. People like Talk Sport, Simon Jordan coming out making comments, which people will take as homophobic comments about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And yet, the first exclusive interview with Sean Dyche when he became manager was from Collymore going to Talk Sport. The communication and the engagement, and actually on a daily basis coming back to the football club, from the football club to its fans, is just a huge problem. That someone at some point has got to be an adult and say, we've got to talk to these fans. Stop running away from them. Stop, having these one-on-ones with, the interview with Jazz and Farhad Moshiri. That wasn't an interview. That was comments put across to Farhad Moshiri. Why isn't Farhad Moshiri adult enough to sit in a room with someone like Alan Myers? By the way, I wouldn't hate to think anyone was thinking this is me having a little cry because I can't get to interview these people. I wouldn't want to interview Farhad Moshiri. When we actually got an interview with Frank Lampard, I didn't even go because I didn't particularly take to Frank Lampard, so I didn't even go to that. Couldn't care less. But why aren't the club letting people like Alan Myers, people who are really good at their job, sit down with Farhad Moshiri, even if it's about the stadium, even if he never ever gets over it's about what's happening at the club now? Why aren't they having these things and being adults? Because this is what we see every single day. And as I said earlier, it's hard sometimes to pinpoint one issue because there's so many issues at this football club. But why aren't they communicating with the fans? Even the thing Sean Dyche says winds me up. I mean, not getting a straight answer about the Dominic Calvert-Lewin over the last few weeks. It's that kind of stuff. You know, that really winds me up about Everton Football Club. And as someone that obviously, you know, thrives on communication and being able to relate that back to our fan base, it's incredible. And you know, we've seen, as Dave said, you know, the board have gone dark now. Are they actually at the club? What's the next step with MSP? What's the next step with the board members? It'd be really, really nice if just one of them could be an adult and come out and do an interview. Graham Sharp, someone who, you know, there's people in here will have people here who would have been their idol or their dad's idol or whatever. Why can't he do an interview and just say, I'm hurt by what these people are saying? Instead, we get throwaway comments saying things like these, you know, he said things about the fans after West Ham game, they've gone over the top. Why not sit down and do that properly and do a proper interview, a grown-up interview? Because we're heading now to a situation with this football club where, you know, we've got 8 games, not just to save our Premier League status, but for many people, save our football club in many ways. Because if we get relegated, then who knows what the outcome of that's going to be with everything going on. So I just want the football club, if there anyone is listening from the football club, and I know there's people listening from the football club, it's time to grow up. It's time to come out and talk to your fans. And do you know what? If it's bad news, it's bad news. I think we're all adults here. I think we can all take it. I think we all understand how bad it's got, because what happens every single day is other people fill in the narrative, whether it's the Daily Mail telling us that our stadium's not going to be built, or people still the Daily Mail telling us we're going to get a points deduction. Come out and talk to your fan base. Otherwise, other people will, and they will fill the void. And, you know, that is the message we hear every single day from the people we talk to and who comment with us. And I'm sure Benji will say very similar things on that. The fan base just wants to be spoken to. And if you speak to us and you treat us like adults, I think we'll start treating you like adults. And if you get that communication like other clubs are starting to do now, I think it will calm down so many of these issues.
A nice one, Bird. Brilliant, that. I don't know. There's nothing I can say after that. We'll get Ben on, and then we'll do a couple of questions to both of you. That's all right. So I'll pass it over to you, Ben.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, go on, crack on.
Hi, everyone. Ben from A View from the Bullens here. I just want to say by starting, Ped, that was brilliant. I think you summarised quite rightly how we're all feeling. Unfortunately, having to speak about this club every day, you know, weekly podcasts, video, putting so much time and effort into it and being honest, absolutely nothing back. A bit about me, a bit about the podcast. We started during COVID. Just a few lads got together, myself, Lee, the Bobble, just talking about Everton. I've found a bit of enjoyment, which got a bit of growth, which led to a bit of growth and went to obviously the community events that we do. Fortunate enough to be obviously Dave Kelly's in now to give £2,000 to them. So obviously help the likes of Hannah Rocks, Hans Tors Bus, give so much back to the community. And to be honest with you, I don't mind saying this on here, and as Ped quite rightly said, there are going to be people listening. We did ask for help from the club on so many different occasions. We told them what the causes were for. We've told them what we're doing, and we had nothing back. The responses were nothing short of embarrassing, to be honest. You know, but what we've had, we did get a tour around stadium, around Goodison Park, and we got a 15-minute Dwight McNeil interview at the back end of Christmas, literally the day before. But as Peg quite rightly said before, the club are full of false promises. And as soon as certain fan bases, certain people, the fans get together, they try and shut you down straight away. They spin the webs, they spin the narratives, and they try and shut you down. It's not only a few people that have had these phone calls. It's, you know, I can count on both hands, you know, 10, 15, 20 people. I've had calls at 1 a.m, 11 a.m, watch your tweet about, get it down, get it deleted. And since we started the podcast, I think we've always been independent. We're not in the club's pocket whatsoever. We like to think we call it a spade, as do a lot of Everton media out there. But as Ped quite rightly said, use like the channels, use Alan Myers, use someone to come out and speak to the fan base, because when there's questions to be answered, no one comes forward. No one has, sorry to excuse me, friends, the bollocks to come out and own it. As he quite rightly said, if there is bad news, tell us all there's bad news. If people and the fans are left in the grey, that's when people start to question things. That's when rumours start. That's when people start saying things on Twitter that are necessarily true or not true, for example. So if you come out and front the issues, the fan base can't moan. We're always going to have a bit of a qualm about it. We might do a podcast about it. We might do a media show about it. But ultimately, if you come out and tell the truth and say, look, we've mismanaged, we've misspent, and we're in really serious times, we all need to stick together, I can accept that. You know, I'm not going to be happy with it because, you know, I want to improve that. I want to see our football club winning things. Like Katie Carter and a few others that have come onto the podcast, Chrissy himself, I don't want mediocrity. And the first part to avoid mediocrity is accepting that you've made mistakes. Because once you've accepted you've made mistakes, you can put things right. And it's little things like that. Talk to the fan base. So when we started, I've seen a few things, obviously, a few people going, what are you going on about? You're wasting your time. There's nothing wrong with the club, the fan base. Certain individuals getting a lot of stick on Twitter, you know, on different other social media platforms. And that, again, it's up to people's opinion. But since we started doing this podcast, it seems like the mood amongst the fan base is starting to, I think, change. It's got a movement. It's got issues. And I think we're going in the right direction. The likes of Chrissy, the girls, and everyone involved in this. It's going the right way. There's no groups. There's no affiliations. There's a group of individuals coming together. And that's the best way. There's no groups. It's literally everyone fighting in the right direction. The way the club's run is a joke. It doesn't take me or the Bobble or Ped or Baz or Steve or Lee on a podcast to say otherwise. The evidence is out there. All you have to do is log onto Company's House, speak to a financial expert, and you can all say Everton are in the real stickiness. It's a joke. And, you know, not just only me and others, especially for, again, Ped and Baz, that's their livelihood. They talk about Everton for a living, and it stresses me out. You know, I hate going to bed every night. It affects your family life. It affects everything because we just don't know what's going on. The likes of Graham Sharp, I agree with Ped again. Use the likes of Alan Myers. Use Alan Myers and get him to talk about what's gone on, what the plan is, what the direction is. Who knows when this stadium's going to get built? All they're asked about the club is what a blue bobbleat says on Twitter regarding stadium news and other stuff because they hate it. They hate the fact that people go on and say stuff like, how's he got that information? The information would not be leaked if they came out and said it themselves. If they came out and fronted it and said, this is the plan, this is that direction, we're behind on this and that. And it's a joke. The club is ran like an absolute circus. I've said it so many times. You do weekly podcasts on it. You know, the likes of Bill Kenwright, the second longest serving chairman in the Premier League, is failing. The board are failing. The club are failing. And as always, the fan base is suffering. The fan base are going to sleep, having sleepless nights, unable to know what the hell we're going to wake up to tomorrow. And it's the period of unknown because I'm sick and tired of waking up the next day to news breaking about Everton. And I speak to people who are in this call now, and they say, what on earth is going on at our football club? And it's absolutely heartbreaking. My dad tells me about and I hate, again, living in the past. I hate it. But you talk about the 80s years, the famous years of winning things, seeing things. That's what I want. I want our club to be successful. I want to talk about Everton and be happy. I want to be able to look forward to speaking about Everton, look forward to getting...
Chris, just want me to jump in a minute?
Go on, mate.
Go on, I just wanted to say as well, even while we've been doing this, I've had a couple of journalists get in touch with me because the journalists are as frustrated as we are as fans. You know, there's Evertonian journalists out there who are frustrated because they're actually more hamstrung than we are actually for what we do. They what we can basically say. I can basically say whatever I want as long as I don't step over that legal threshold. I can go on. Let Benji continue. Go on.
Sorry, Ped.
Go on, mate.
That was genuinely a no caller ID times too. I've just sent it to the 1878 chat. Like, you know, how bizarre is that? Genuinely, and I put it on Twitter for those who don't believe me. No caller ID, but genuinely, what I was saying is, we just, you know, use the fan base, use the channels that are out there, give a bit of engagement out to the fans that are giving their hard-earned money week in, week out. Just give a bit back. The truth talks. Like, be honest, front it. Communication is key, and that is the most important thing, I think, out of all this. Absolutely, we need communication, better communication from top to bottom, and it can start by like the EFC fan engagement, just a bit of support again, no caller ID. It's definitely happening, but yeah, just a bit of support, communication. You know, we just want a bit of help. You know, when we ask for it, just a tiny bit of help everyone else, help the Blues around you. Just give something back. But this no caller ID is doing my head, and it's very suspicious, to be honest.
All right, nice one, Ben. Anyway, we'll get some questions in a bit. Have you got to go now? Or you?
No, mate, I'm here. I'll stay for a bit. I'll stay.
So Ped wants to say something else, and then we'll go to a couple of questions.
Yeah, I was just saying there, like, there are a lot of journalists out there, by the way, who want to speak about all this. They really want to do, but you've just heard yourself off what Benji was saying there. The club, and Kieran Maguire said something about this. And listen, I don't know whether Kieran Maguire was 100% spot on, or whether listen, the club do need to bring journalists up now and again and smack them, on the knuckles because of things they've said. But there's a lot of journalists out there who actually fear to say things because it is their livelihood. People work within the media, whether it's local, whether it's national. And if they come in and their boss says, well, that you've been banned because what you said, then they haven't got a job anymore. And I'm not saying Everton will do that. I'm not saying Everton will ban journalists. They don't have a history of banning journalists. But if Everton want to stop inviting journalists to a certain event, whether it be an Everton in the community event or whatever, and an interview's denied, they can easily do that. They can easily stop that. They can easily provide access to some people and not other people. And if your livelihood depends on that, especially in the way it is now, I've proved that anyone can just start a podcast and start earning money from it. You don't have to go to jail. People put themselves through journalists, go to university and everything. People are scared. They're scared for the jobs. They're scared of what can happen. So there are journalists out there who want to support this situation, who want to get answers. But once you hit that brick wall of the club going silent, I think I don't know what people think out there, but I know for a long time we've had a lot of issues with the Liverpool Echo, and it's just dead strange that Dave Prentice now works for Everton. But Joe Thomas, if you're someone backing people, I think people need to back Joe Thomas and give him as much support as you can, because that's a lad, honestly, who every day is trying to get stories about the truth of what's going on at Everton. And he works at the Liverpool Echo. His whole job is watching Everton, asking questions, asking the questions the fan base ask. And I think it's really important that people like him get backed by the fan base, by the way, because if one day Everton go, oh, you're not coming in because of what you said, then he needs the fan base supporting him. So it's certainly not about people like me. It's people like him who do have access, who do get to ask those questions, who by the way, front pages of the Liverpool Echo, no matter what you think about that newspaper, he went out and put that front page, something that we've been calling for a very, very long time. I remember being in a meeting with the likes of Katie in the Echo building a few years back with Dave Prentice and a few others, and we asked, why aren't you pushing the football club like Liverpool are pushing, like the Liverpool journalists are pushing the football club over Hicks and Gillette? Why aren't you doing the same? And they give us nothing. They give us absolutely nothing but nonsense. They just sat there and lied through the teeth. Oh, what do you want us to do? And we were like, hang on, you're the Liverpool Echo. You've got all the money to go after these people. You've got the clout to go after these people. And they said nothing and they did nothing. And now one of them works for the club. I don't know. I don't even know what he does for the football club, by the way. But he works for the football club. That's what I know now. So I would say, go please support people like Joe Thomas, who are trying to get the truth, who are trying to get answers. Because you know what? If they're stuff on doing their job, the football club won't have anywhere to go on this, because we'll all know as a fan base, and then we can make decisions over what we do next as a fan base. Because if we're not allowed to ask questions because they're not willing to provide the answers, then we have to step it up again. So I think it's really important. These people are trying, no matter what you think. There are a lot of good journalists trying their hardest, but they're not only hitting brick walls, but they're being asked, why are you asking these questions? I've heard some of these press conferences are getting like North Korea. So it's up to us, I think, as a fan base, to back a lot of these journalists and provide the platform. And when they do write good stories, we applaud them for that and we back them. And whether it's retweets or whatever, just give them our support as much as we can.
All right, brilliant. Per Dan, Ben, thanks for that, both of you. So we'll do another. Obviously, there's 2 people spoke this time, so we'll do 5 questions. The chat seems to be messing up. It's putting people asking a question, and it's saying it's someone else. So we'll you might not get, it might not be your name on a question, but we'll go through a few. Do you want to pick a couple, Hannah, and then I'll pick a few?
Yeah, let me have a little look through now. A lot of agreement on Joe Thomas. Alan Bailey's asked why so few ex-players say anything.
Can I say my bit on that?
Yeah.
I see Alan asking him every day, but it's, for me, the likes of, apparently Southall's working at the club now. We've got ex-players who do the tours, who do the lounges and stuff. For me, the ones, especially the ones from the 80s and 70s, like Mark Higgins has been in there forever, hasn't he? But it's their livelihood. So they're not, like we were saying before about there's some brilliant people who work at Everton. They're getting paid to do a job. They're not going to risk the mortgage or risk, their income to come out and slate people who aren't, in my opinion, who aren't going to be here in the next 6 months' time or 6 months to a year. So that's what I believe. And I think they probably, some of them hate themselves for it, but they've got to do it because they're not millionaires. They're not on big money. Funnily enough, the one who's probably got the most money out of all of them ended up on the board in the biggest paid job. But that's just my opinion. I don't know about you, Sue.
For me, Chris, I'm in complete agreement. I think the players, some ex-players do sign NDAs, obviously non-disclosure agreements, which is if you breach them, you breach your contract. That's probably the more recent players. But I think in regards to some of the players around the club and some of the ex-players, there are a lot of players in them lounges. I'm fortunate enough, hold my hands up, to go in there occasionally. And they agree. They think the club's run in an absolute horrendous way. They really do. And there's some really good people amongst Everton, and I'm sure that's been spoken about, who are basically told and dictated to what they can and can't say. So they're having their right of a freedom of speech to be completely removed. And it's wrong. It's like a dictatorship, like you're getting told what you can and can't say. But in regard to like the XX players, like the 80s team, they missed out on the big bucks. They really, really did. They went on thousands and thousands of pounds what football is today, a business which we currently aren't. We currently are not very well run football club. But I agree with you, Chris. The ex-players are getting, obviously, their wages, their livelihood, that's their job. And they're probably either sworn to NDAs or told that if you speak out about the club, you will be sacked. So there'll be no more money coming in. So, yeah, that's how I see it, mate.
Just on that, I don't think they wear for carrots anyway. I just don't. Ex-players who play for Everton have no national coverage whatsoever. They're not. We all love them, or we all ask questions, or you might now and again look to one of those players. They're not wear for carrot. The people you should be looking for, and again, people might take this the wrong way, but it's people like Jamie Carragher. You've got to get. And Jamie Carragher said his piece, whether you play for Liverpool or whatever, it doesn't matter. Him and Gary Neville are 2 of the biggest pundits in this country. When they do the pieces on Monday Night Football, that's the stuff that permeates in. Gary Lineker, I mean, look at Gary. He's the one you really want to get into because he doesn't really have any. He doesn't rely on Everton for anything. These are the people you have to get into. And they're the ones who've got the biggest say. I mean, Gary Lineker's got something like 10 million followers on Twitter. If he starts talking about Everton and what's going wrong with Everton, people are going to listen. Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, these are the people. Forget about our heroes. You need these stories to get past Liverpool, get past Merseyside. You want Everton to be the first story on Monday Night Football if things are going wrong. You want them to be talking about our football club if bad things are happening. I love the fact when Jamie Carragher says Everton is the worst run football club in the country, because we know it's true. It's Ian Wright, when Ian Wright came out and said what he said about the headlock situation, that made more that filtered across the national media more than anything said, because we were all fed the line. Some of local journalists. I remember when that happened. Greg O'Keefe was on Football Focus Live, and they basically hit him with it. And I felt dead sorry for Greg, because they've just pushed this on him, and what can he say? He can't go, well, I don't know about that. But Ian Wright said later on that day, oh, it's terrible what happened, I expect more. A couple of days later, he came out and he held his hands up and he said, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't know the facts. And it looks like, well, where's the evidence? They're the people, because the only way you make this is a pure Everton thing again, isn't it? Everton as a club love being L4 Everton. You know, L4, they're not asked about being a club that is revered around the world. They're not asked about being someone where kids in America and Asia and Australia and everywhere else are wearing their shirts. They just want, we go the game, the People's Club, L4. So as long as people just around Liverpool are talking about the bad things, they're happy with that. You've got to get it in the national conscious. You've got to get it out there. I mean, yesterday, Darren Bent was on TalkSport talking about Everton's stadium that was yet to be built. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Everton as a football club, we don't make the national headlines for anything positive. But you know what? If bad things are going on at the club, make them national headlines. Make the world know what's going wrong with this football club. You know, and I think they're the most important people. Forget about all, you know, the people who do the tours or Neville Southall games. It doesn't. They don't come into the national sphere of media. So if there are bad things, you know, let's get these people involved. And if that means Benji having Jamie Carragher on his podcast, so be it. Doesn't matter if people go, oh, he's a red bar, but who cares? Who cares? He's got millions of people hanging off every word he says. You know, if Gary Neville wants to come on our podcast, I'll have him on because I want to know what he's got to say about what's going on. It's like when we had Wayne Rooney on. These people go past Everton, and you hear all the, you know, when these people talk, people listen. So it's so important that these are the people that are you know, we get to talk up about what's going on at our football club.
If one thing's going to make the owner act or do something, you've seen how rash he is. It's national media spotlight on him and his image, because that's all he's asked about. He's a billionaire. He's just asked about how he looks to the rest of the world and to those peers and the people who are richer than him. So the only way for him to be, he's not asked what gets written in the Echo or on Twitter. He'd be bothered if it's on the front page of the Daily Mail or it's on Monday Night Football, and he's got how many people are going to send him and say what's going on here who haven't got a clue about marches and stuff. I've been saying that for months, that's the way to hit him, is in his image, and to shame him into acting. It doesn't matter how we get what we want. It doesn't matter who does it or who's the hero. It matters that they go and that we become a better club, and he brings someone in who can actually run a club. Which I've said that so many times, and the protests are just the start, and the marches are just a little bit which need to be stepped up. And it doesn't mean that we need 20. If we get 20,000 people there, great, and you know, it's all over Sky. It's stepping it up on which I've had conversations recently with a couple of people who've got contacts and stuff, and that's the next stage, to step it up in terms of national media. I'm like Man United. I'm not telling anyone to get a game called off or anything like that, but when Man United fans got the game called off, it was a matter of time before it was on CNN and everything. It was a matter of time before they put the club up for sale, which, well, they have done, and it's apparently going through. But that's the exposure we need. I think that's just answered a couple of questions that were in the chat as well. So I'll have a look now just for another one, because I think that was 2 or 3 questions in one.
There's a question about the protest going forward.
I think we'll catch it after Katie's bit.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the stuff's just general chit chat and comments. So we'll move it on. Obviously, if anyone's got any further questions at the end, if Ben and Ped are still about, we can get them back in. Right. So. One sec. So we'll just go to myself to have just a brief chat about the account. I don't want to, you know, tell everyone what they already know, but after the last Hot Walk meeting, I put a few things out there that I think I'd said on View from the Bullens, and people were like, "I didn't know that," or "Didn't know this." So just a basic breakdown of the account. So we lost 44.7 million, which is the 5th loss in 6 years. So we are a loss-making business. We spend more than we earn, and we're building a new stadium. I don't know how is that. It's not possible. It literally is not physically possible, because until something gives, basically. So we owe Right to Media funding, who were a lender, up to 150 million, and we owe Metro Bank 26 million. Shiri's put in another 300 million since July 21, and it's taken his total to 750 million pound. Considering he's what was he worth? 1.4 billion. He spent half of his on paper net worth in 7 years at Everton. So now he's seeking outside investors. I guarantee you, the day he walked in the football club, he never thought he'd be in a position after 7 years to be desperate for investments, like our chairman was before he come, apparently. Before he come and since he's come, we've done nothing but sell our assets. Before he come, we sold actual physical assets, like the club shop, Finch Farm. And it's, since he's been in, we've sold, just to name a few, Digne, Rodriguez, Richarlison, Gordon and Moise Keane. Before that, Lukaku, Stones, ridiculous amounts of money as well. Not like 20, 30 million quid here. We sold Lukaku for 90 odd million. We've sold Gordon for 40 million and invested zero in the same transfer window. Where's that money going? Is it going back to what he's put in? Is it going to the stadium? We don't know. There's no sign that we'll be able to improve the squad in the summer without further sales. And to be honest, we're running out of anyone who's worth a penny, aren't we? Pickford's signed the contract, so he's got some good book value, but he's him, Onana maybe. Who else? If you got that's gonna net you serious money. I struggled.
Tom Davis.
Yeah, serious money. Not us having to pay someone else. So we've got, and then we're getting the likes of Meenan and Townsend off the books, who I think they're 200 grand between them or close to it a week. We've got rid of millions of pounds over the last 2 years in wages of people who we bought for ridiculous money that have come in for and done nothing. I'm just basically seeing the contract out. As we all know, we've got to stay in the league. Relegation will cut the club's income by almost half, which is a huge risk to the club if it was to happen, which was pointed out by the auditors. It was even mentioned about administration. So as you all know, we're in a terrible position financially due to the board and Mashiri's mismanagement. There's no way that anyone else the finger can be pointed at for the last 7 years than the owner, and the consistent on that board, which has been Bill Kenwright, and the next is Denise Barrett-Baxendale. Grant Ingles, he's been, I don't even know we don't know what he does. We never heard of him. I was told by someone in the club that he's done a great job in getting us out the shit over the last few years, which is absolutely laughable. So yeah, it's obviously this come from Paulie Ask and NSNO, so thanks to them for the information. Obviously, I'd expect everyone in here to know the base of the accounts being an absolute disgrace and the running of the club being an absolute disgrace. So it's in front here. We've got people actually like Ped just said, the national media. We've actually got people talking about it. Kieran, who done a voice clip for us, he was talking about it. He's had them phone calls off the club, moaning at him, why are you saying this? Why are you saying that? And it's not like he's telling lies, is it? Like you said about Carragher, Carragher saying we're the worst run club in the country. I'd say by now it's by some way and it's not getting any better. They're absent. They haven't got the balls to come forward, or they haven't got the health to come forward and say we've made a mistake. We're gonna step aside and bring someone else in who's gonna hopefully get us back on a level footing and go into the stadium as a much better club. That's all we want. That's why the club can't come out and say that, or just come out and say we've made mistakes. We're gonna do this X, Y, and Z. But they haven't got it in them, and with an absent owner above them, he's not gonna come out and say anything. Like he doesn't until he gets shamed into something. Just put that agenda back up, please, Hannah, Jam. So we'll do it. Any questions on accounts at the end? I can't see there being many. It's everyone knows where they're at, and I just felt like we had to visit it. So I'll pass it on to Dave now from the 1878. He's obviously got his own personal issues with the club. He was a member of the fans forum. I think he actually got a phone call from the club when he resigned sure he'll go into it. And about the 1878, just about the last 8 games, the huge aren't they? We all know. So I'll pass it over to you, Dave. Thanks.
Cheers, Chris. He's giving me the old graveyard shift here, to be fair. But we crack on anyway. But yeah, from anyone who doesn't know me, I'm obviously part of the 1878 group, an atmosphere group, and we'll talk about how that got formed very shortly. Started a supporter group off the back of like an anti-racism campaign we started a few years back for Moyes Keane. And I've just been involved in trying to do the best I can as a fan to try and make things better. I've always stupidly and probably naively thought I could make a difference. I joined the Fans Forum a few years back and genuinely thought I'm joining it to try and make a difference. And eventually, after a couple of years, I realised that there's different levels at Everton Football Club. There's the engagement level, and there is some good people there, like Christine Pryor, for example, who generally is, she cares when she tries her hardest, but it's hopeless. Whilst we've got people like Bill Kenwright, and my day job is looking at culture change in failing organisations, and the people at the top at the moment aren't empowering the people in the middle to do their job, and it'll never work. We're at that breaking point. It doesn't take me to talk about some of the topics that some of the other lads have discussed and girls have discussed already, so I won't go into that. But I got to a breaking point, and I got to the point of actually thinking that I've got 2 choices here. We've tried dialogue. We've written a letter to Mashiri. Look at the response you got back. A deluded response saying everything's fine. We've got a great board. Denise is fantastic. Bill Kenwright's fantastic, and anything in between. What more can you do then? And for me, the best thing to do at that time is to actually stand down and stand shoulder to shoulder with Evertonians, because for me, that was the best way to represent Evertonians, to stand with them. So I've been at every protest since, been involved in all the organisations with them. Obviously, Han and Steve Kelly, who were on here, both decided to do the same thing. I respect everyone's way of doing things, but that was my personal choice at the time, to make a stand and to step down. Going back just over 12 months ago, it feels like it was forever. We were obviously at a perilous place, as we've been for the last 2 seasons after January last year. And I was speaking to quite a few Blues who were on the call, likes of Han, Steve Kelly, who's on here, Ben, who's been in there, been speaking already, and many more, Barry Williams and co. And we were all looking at ways, Katie Carter and lots of Blues who go to the match, and most people know, and we were fucking shitting ourselves. Let's put it lightly, and excuse my French. We fucking are shitting ourselves at the back ends of January and thinking, we're going to go down here. What can we do? You know what I mean? And we thought, these lads on the pitch and everyone else isn't doing their part. So what can we do as fans to try and make a difference? So we set up a bit of a group, and we got together, and we started speaking and saying, what can we do genuinely to make a difference? And all kinds of ideas came forward, and people were putting things out there, and we were just looking for ways to try and make a difference as fans. So we set up a group called the 1878s. There was a fantastic group called the Originals, who had done loads of work for years, by the way, and had literally, there's like Paul Draper, Kane, some fantastic committed Evertonians that go everywhere, and I can only idolise them because they literally spend all the money and time supporting this football club. Have tried for many years to make a difference in the atmosphere, from singing sections to creating anything they can to make a difference, because that's what we do, don't we? You know what I mean? It's, as much as I might be pissed off.
Dave.
It's a family, isn't it? It's everything, you know what I mean? Even lockdown, we saw that more than ever, you know what I mean? It's, as soon as we didn't have it, we missed it. We missed getting together, and we were trying to make a difference. And obviously someone suggested at the time, coach meets, and I was thinking to myself, that's fucking not going to work at all. Coach meets, turning up outside the ground and all that. I was the first person to doubt it. But Evertonians, if they do anything, they prove people wrong. When we're backed into a corner, that it's that siege mentality. You only got to look at the grounds when a decision goes against us. We start fighting outwards, and you start fighting together, shoulder to shoulder. And what happens is something that we haven't seen for years as Evertonians. you know, we were expecting a couple hundred people turning up. There were thousands. It wasn't about a group. It wasn't about an individual. It was about every single person probably on this call, every single person that turned up. You know, it's about us all together. And when we are working together and when we are unified, nothing can stop us. You know what I mean? We can make a difference. You know, the fans are the greatest single asset, as Dave Kelly said earlier on. You know, I couldn't agree more with what he said. You know, and we do need a bit of that siege mentality to get us going sometimes. But it's hard, isn't it? We've been through a lot. And I'm the one at the moment who's going to try and say to you, we need to go again. You know, we've got 8 cup finals at the moment. What we don't want to end up is in, you know, the wrong division. We don't want to go down because we don't deserve it as fans, do we? You know what I mean? We really don't deserve it. You know, I'm looking at people like Han and people like that who spend all their life and time organising and spending their time for other Evertonians, and it's their life, you know. And I think that what I'm kind of saying to you now is that we've got to work together to try and get ourselves out of this mess again. We shouldn't have to be here again in 12 months' time, you know, and something's got to give. What I would say is that obviously I'm pissed off with the club. I'm really pissed off. You know, I think that this board is not good enough. I've been at every single protest march. There was this kind of belief that you can't protest against the board and also support atmosphere, but I think that's been proven wrong. You know, I think that actually we've had 5 games at home since the protests have began, and we've only lost 1. You know, I think obviously 3 wins and a draw there, so that's been proven quickly wrong. You look at United and the Glaziers, you know, they do it pretty much every game, and they've shown that you can separate both. You know, I think if anything, it's fired me up being outside the grounds, being with Evertonians that I really respect, and walking down in an inclusive way that actually has got us all fired up, singing about the club that we love, and actually going into the game and bringing that atmosphere with us. I would also say that we need to continue the respect. I think Chris hit the nail on the head. What we've done so far has been respectful. You know, I think. Yeah, I think what we've done so far is kept that class, because Evertonians have got that class about them. You know, we don't let ourselves down, and I think we need to continue to do that. Look, I think that every Evertonian in that stadium should be outside there protesting, but that's just my point of view. But I respect if people want to do it their own different way, they can do. It might not be something I agree with, but you know that yeah, everyone's got their own way of asking for better. But if it was to say anything for you, you know, if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about it, just turn up. It's been a respectful, a classy march. You know, it's actually got me fired up for the game. I've still been able to do my normal 8 Guinness before the game, which I'm quite proud of. But I've managed to fit them in, going out half an hour a bit earlier, and sometimes sneaking a sneaky one in just as I'm finishing the march. But it's 20 minutes of your time. But look, if you don't want to do it, then fair enough. We've all got our own ways, haven't we? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to support your football team that we all love, and that's just totally up to you. So obviously, fast forward this 12 months where we are now, we need to do something, don't we? We're in a perilous position. The Goodison atmosphere needs to be as good as it can be. You know, we've shown, actually, there was a banner that got hung at the, you know, this season, which says together anything is possible. And I think we've shown that last season, you know, that we can together genuinely make a difference. You know, we can actually do that. We've tried to work with the club and to try different things at an engagement level. And like I say, there are good people working within the club at that engagement level that we've spoken to. There's a lot of people who say, why do we need people to tell us what to do? Why do we need people to organise stuff? Well, look at Dortmund, look at Ajax, look at all the big clubs who've got the fantastic atmosphere. Sadly, there's always someone who's got to get up a bit early or do an hour meeting in the week and speak to people and organise stuff, or, you know, run a Just Giving or whatever. We need to get together, and we need someone to organise that. And, you know, there's people there that are willing to do that on behalf of the fan base. You know, people who are willing to give their extra time, volunteering and doing the hard yards. We have hit loads of walls this season. You know, look, if you look at Goodison at the moment, last season, I genuinely believe it started to look great. We had banners, you know, 7, 8, 9 banners in the Gladys Street, They were all fan-made banners. They were all ideas that have been put forward by different fans. The 1878 have continually asked people, "What do you want? What genuinely what do you want as fans?" Because it's about us all. It's not about one fan or a group of fans. It's about us all. So what I'd say to you is try and contact us, get involved, speak to us. Let's work together. And we're gonna have to do that. The club have already said to us, and I don't mean to throw them under the bus on this, but they've said to us already there's been staffing issues. What happens if we go down? That the finances are only going to get worse. We're only going to be in a position even more so that we're not going to be able to have Goodison looking as good as it is. Even when we get into Bramley Moor, it's going to be, it's going to be much more attendance wise, probably not as much as we all want, to be honest with you, but that's another story. But I think what we need to do is we need to get to a place where actually it's the fans are organising it. It's not the club involved. We're actually just saying to the club, this is what we're doing. These are our banners that we've sorted, and we're going to put X, Y, and Z across the Gladders. We're going to put this in the park ends, and we need to get it to a place where we're actually mobilising as a fan base. The fan generated the ideas, they're paid for by the fans. Look, we're in a cost of living crisis. We're all skint out. We, and the season tickets have gone up, so I'm not going to sit here and ask for anything. But what we can ask for is just to bring an atmosphere. If that's you, singing to a song in the Gladys Street or the Park Ends or anywhere in between, then that's your contribution. If that's you buying your own banner or bringing your own thing in your own style, then do it that way. Everyone can do their own way. I think Chris is going to touch on fundraising at the end, because if you look at like Newcastle, them bit massive tifos that they've done, they cost thousands of pounds. They're not something that we can just literally whip up. I can just about afford the Twix in the ground at the moment because they've gone up that much. Never mind paying for one of them massive tifos. So I think it's gonna have to be us all getting together, shoulder to shoulder, because unity is the only way that we can move forward. Look at some fantastic people like Dave Kelly, who showed in the past, what can be done when Evertonians get together. We have got some, inspired Evertonians, and we can make a difference. So I won't go on again, but what we are saying is that bring your ideas, tell us what you want. It's not just up to us, it's about us all. But what we do want is we want us all to come together. We want us all to be shoulder to shoulder. We want us to make the grand old lady of English football look as good as it can be, because we have got a clock that's ticking at the moment. And with every game that disappears, it's another opportunity lost to make Goodison, the place it should be, the place that we want to remember. I'm not lucky enough to have kids, but a couple of my friends have got really young kids who, the first experiences of this season. Let's not make them remember Goodison being plain and boring and flat. Let's make them remember Goodison for what it should be and what it has been and what it can be. Let's make it grand. Let's make it bold. Let's make it hostile, loud, everything in between. And I think if we can make it as colourful and as decorated as it should be with the fantastic banners, let's not let Newcastle outdo us. You know what I mean? Let's not clubs like that shouldn't be outdoing this fan base, because we're better than that. And for me, and obviously I'm biased, we're the best fan base out there. So my ask to you is contact at the 1878, and look, I know everyone's not on Twitter. It's not the be all and end all, but we'll put contact details and we'll make sure they're on there to make sure that you can get in contact with us. And any way you want to get involved, do it. And that can just be turning up and just shouting and screaming as loud as you want. It can be you sat in the paddock like me, heckling the linesman and killing the opposition players by my voice. But whatever way you do it, let's make Goodison, horrible, hostile, loud, lively, and grand. Because we are on a countdown and we need to get together. So my message to you really is something simple, really, which is the big banner that got hung on the Gladys Street, which is together, anything is possible. So let's keep standing together. Let's keep together as Evertonians, and let's keep shoulder to shoulder, because that's our saying that all together now. It's not the club saying, it's our saying as Evertonians, and we're stronger together. Thank you.
Nice one, Dave. That was brilliant, mate. Anyone with any ideas for the 1878 can just get in touch on Twitter or on here. Obviously, all the notes there's a few people have been putting ideas through. All the notes will be put out and put in the right to the right people. So we'll move on to the next marches and protests, and what are actually planned as it stand, and then we'll open the floor to ideas on protesting, fundraising if it's required, and the overall goal, how we're going to get there to get the board removed from the club. So I'll pass it over to Katie.
Just going off what Chris has said, so basically the plans going forward for the next 4 home games. We've stated that an hour before kick-off, every home game will be starting the march, still from the Royal Oak pub, going up to the director's entrance. That will continue. We've been made aware by some in the media that basically the club are under the impression that if basically the team start winning games and we get out of this horrible mess what we're in, then we'll stop. And these marches and protests will stop and we'll just fade away and nothing will be said anymore. That couldn't be further from the truth, to be honest. Obviously, I think Ped said there will be somebody listening. Tonight, the message is very clear from us, who are actually leading this, but also everybody who gets involved. We're not going anywhere until this board have gone. It's plain and simple. We won't stop. I think a few mistakes have been made in the past, from myself included, involved in other groups where we've kind of give in and give up so easily and let things just pass us by. And, one of my regrets as an Evertonian, and I'm not saying I could have took the world on my own after the Crystal Palace game, because that's not the case. But I think as a fan base back then, we made a huge mistake. I think the next day we should have battered them doors down and made sure that this never happens again. And unfortunately, here we are 12 months on, still in the same position. Things have got to change at the football club. We're making that very clear that that's what we want. This board, they're not fit for purpose anymore. Their position become untenable a long time ago, but I think they put the final nail in the coffin a few months ago when they threw every single one of us in this call and every single Evertonian around the world threw us under the bus completely by spinning lies to the media, with actual no proof of anything, no evidence. And that's the way they work, that's the way they run, and that's the way they've always run, especially under the chairman. This is the way he is, it's what he's always done. There's a few people in the call, Dave can back me up on this. It's happened before, it'll still happen again whilst he's here. I'm not going to stand here and lie to anybody. I think people know my feelings quite well regarding my feelings towards Bill Kenwright as Everton chairman. Bill Kenwright as a person, I don't know him. I'll be honest, I don't want to know him. I just want what's best for our football club. So I would never go anything personal and direct to him on his personal life point of view. But as chairman of Everton Football Club, and as this so-called Evertonian, he couldn't tell any more lies if he tried. That comment alone is probably the biggest lie that he's ever told. Telling us he's the biggest Evertonian out of the lot. Any Evertonian wouldn't put this football club through what he has and what he's still continuing to do so. So, also the owner is, personally, is not on a personal level, but on a football level, he's an absolute lunatic. And they go hand in hand, the pair of them. Let's be honest, the owner wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the chairman, but the chairman also wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for the owner. So I think Bill Kenwright made a statement a long time ago, he's the best salesman for Everton Football Club. He wasn't. He was the best salesman for Bill Kenwright, and it's as simple as that, and that's been made very clear. He's made absolute millions for failure, but this owner has kept him on. Dave made it very clear at the beginning, there's only one person at this football club that can make changes. There's only one person who can do the right thing, and that's Farhad Mashiri. Chris has touched on it, as a few of the other lads. You know, it's all about the image. Let's go and damage their image, because that's where they're gonna become unstuck. That's where they're gonna go, I don't want this no more. You know, I think we've got to be clever in our approach, the way we do things, but we've also got to remain respectful. And I think one thing that, no matter how angry this fan base have been and how angry this fan base could have really been, especially given the last few months and basically the shit what they've been spewing in the media and the dire responses what they come out with and the piss poor communication what they've got, we've kept our dignity as a fan base. We could have easily overspilled that anger, but we haven't. We've kept it intact. And fair play to every person who turns up at their marches and walks up that street and like stands outside that director's box, because they do it with dignity, but they're fighting for the football club. I understand that there's people who want change at Everton. I know there's people who want change at Everton, but they would rather a pint in the pub. And listen, that's absolutely fine. That's people's prerogative. That's what they choose to do. We used to be a minority. We're not a minority no more. We're a majority. And I don't mean us as in we, me, Chris, Jem, Han, who stand at the front and do their marches. I mean as a fan base. We basically are the majority of this football club now who want better. It never used to be like that. It used to be the complete opposite. I remember walking up the road, and I walked up with Dave and a few others in here, and we got heckled by people, you know, you're ganging our beds. What are you doing? I've done 5 marches now, and not once has that happened. They're standing there clapping you, videoing you, singing along on the pavements. The mentality is completely changed. And I think what we've realised now as a fan base, finally, we do deserve better. But the only way to get better at this football club is for the ones who have failed continuously to be removed. You know, your failures are your legacy. It's that simple. And from the owner down to Graham Shaw, every single one of them have failed this football club. And all the people who have left in the past from the boardroom, they've failed us terribly. If we keep pushing and we keep going, we will get what we want eventually. We'll get a better Everton. And I think as a fan base, that's what we need to keep doing. So we're urging everybody, you know, if you are unhappy, just you take 20 minutes, 20 minutes of your time, walk up the street with your pint, bring your mates along, 20 minutes, have a sing-along. Weirdly enough, the atmosphere is actually really good in them. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, when we first started doing them, but the atmosphere is really good. We need to get there, get at that march, 2 o'clock, spread the word to everybody, all your mates, WhatsApp, text, online, every social media that you've got. Please share it, because together we can get a better Everton, and we will not stop. We won't stop now until there's been change, and the right change, and the change what we deserve as a fan base. But thank you very much, all of you, for all your efforts that you have made in the past couple of months. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. It helps us a lot. But anybody who also wants to get involved, you know, if you want to stand there with banners and whatever, we need to like get our ideas, more things, because marches can become a little bit monotonous. But you know, we've made that promise. We said we would sacrifice doing that, our time every Saturday or whenever the game is. We'll do that until the end of the season, because that's a promise that we made. You know, okay, I know a couple of these meetings have actually been cancelled in person, but we're not like the football club. We're going to make promises and we're going to see them through. And that's exactly what we'll do with these marches. And hopefully, you know, the most important thing for us at these marches, to be honest, is after the march. That's the most important thing for us as fans. It's great everybody turning up and having an atmosphere outside and all singing songs, but we've got to get in that ground and we've got to go and help the team and the manager, get behind them and get them, once again, get them out of the shit what this board have put them in. You know, that's our duty as a fan. Let's live with no regrets come May. Do you know what I mean? Let's live with absolutely none. and make sure that you do your utmost in the games and stuff like that. You know, it's hard, I understand, like I feel it myself at times. You're on the floor, how do you pick yourself back up after the shit result? But the fact is, we've got to pick ourselves back up, because whilst we're sitting here paying money to go and watch our football club, we've got a board there who, by the way, chose not to turn up to the football match. They chose not to come to Goodison. They've made their bed, let them lie in it. They're not welcome back now. They're never welcome back to Goodison Park. They don't deserve to be sitting there with me and you, people who care about the club. Let us who care about the club sort the players out. Let us get behind the players, because who do the players, who do the manager look up to? Who's their management when they turn around after the win? Who do they fist bump to? Nobody, because they're not there, because they don't want to know. We pay to go to that football match. They get paid to be there, but they can't turn up. They can't bother their ass coming, and good, because they're not welcome anymore, and we need to make that very clear. But together we can, and we will get a better football club. We've just got to keep going. No matter how hard it is, just keep going. But thanks very much, everybody.
Nice one, Kate. Brilliant. Yeah, as you can see on the screen there, the details of the marching up for Saturday, and there will be one. Newcastle's the next home game, and then going on after that till the end of the season. So I've had a couple of things sent through, which I'll go through now, and then we'll open it up. If you can just put, instead of using the chat, it's a bit quick on the chat, so we'll people put their hands up. We'll get through as many as you can, but I think we'll cut it down. We'll look to finish about 9. From the last the meeting in the Hot Walk, we had a couple of recommendations, a couple of ideas. We've looked into quite a few of them. Funding was an issue. The money for the flags, there's not much. I think we'll get a Newcastle flag out of it. So that's an issue. But for me, the things going forward are the media, which we can look into for free. Well, it takes a bit of time. We don't have to pay them. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just going to get Steve Kelly on first, and then we'll just, Steve wants to have a say about what when he was resigned from the fans forum, and then we'll move into the open floor. So go on, Steve.
Cheers, Chris. Well said, everyone, tonight as well. It's been brilliant. Just really wanted to put my point of view across on how the club have acted and how certain phone calls have been made to myself and certain members on this call before as well. So I left the forum in January because I wasn't happy with the voting on the next steps to not back this board. So a number of votes were put on the actual group in regards to whether we should still engage with the club, and I voted against it. Unfortunately, I was outvoted by a lot of people on the fans forum, which made my decision easy to leave the fans forum in the end, because from my point of view, I just said to him, I just don't think we're doing enough. I feel like we could change the whole perception of the forum by making a big statement. Yes, we could lose respect from the club, but we can't sit back and let them get away with it. Yes, I understand we have to respect all fans, but we also have to be prepared to piss some off as well. From that, basically I was greeted with, well, I think we should still engage with the club. Me and Dave Witch have had a conversation in the last 24 hours, which I know a few people have seen, about it's going to be coming up for re-election soon for the fans forum. In my opinion, that should be put on hold. I also believe that the fans forum should stop any engagement with the club. We've seen what's happened with Watford in the last 24 hours in regards to what's happening with them. They're now being investigated by I think it's the EFL, isn't it? And I believe that they can all sit there and get all these minutes, and which, to be honest with you, I find a lot of it fluff. But from my point of view, if I was them, and I'm a fan of the football club, they should just stop all engagement to the football club until this ownership is gone. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people in this group. I had a phone call off someone from the club, and he knows who he is. He's probably in this chat tonight. Give me a load of fluff about certain board members are upset because they can't turn up to the game. certain Mr. Prentice, who is gutted that he can't attend the game. After I put a tweet about something on Twitter, I was phoned 10 minutes later to be told that, can I take it down? Please listen to us. Please try and get the fans on board, which I said, this isn't stopping until they're gone. So I just really wanted to give a bit of a realization to people who aren't sure about this, and like people who are unsure about the whole campaign and what we're trying to do. I respect everybody's views, but just look at some of the stuff that's come out in the last 4 months since this has been going on. Really, the football club is on the ground, and at the moment we're all in group chats. Every game we're sitting there watching bloody Bournemouth versus Brentford on a Tuesday night, where we'd rather be sitting with our families and enjoying it. And it's because of the football club, and it's because of the engagement of the football club. So my advice to anyone at the Fans Forum listening tonight, stop any engagement with the football club, because to me, you'll do a lot of good for yourself and towards the fans. And in my opinion, it'll change the perception towards the Fans Forum going forward.
No, brilliant, Steve. I think a lot of people will be shocked at that, but you're not the only one. I use had the phone calls off the club, just of obviously journalists get them, and people like Ped and Ben who were on fan channels with thousands of followers, but just normal Evertonians or people who've actually give the time out for free to the club have had these phone calls. It's astounding. Like, as if we're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll delete the tweet for you, even though you threw the fans under the bus a couple of weeks ago. So nice one, Steve. So if I first, any questions, let me just open up the full page. So just put your hand up if you want to do a question. We won't do the chat because it seems to be playing up. If you see any hand, put them on, because obviously we've only got so many on the screen.
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
It's just a quick one. Have we still got the second highest paid board? Because I'm sure that was put to the club a couple of months ago, and their response was they tried to fob it off on Brands, saying, we're only second because Brands has taken a big wage and he's gone now, so that won't be the case going forwards. Is that just spin crap, or is it in the latest accounts the money's gone down? Or
from what I understand from it, that was the year before, and Brands was on the board, and he was on a 2 million salary, which is probably standard for a director of football. But other boards didn't have what they were saying is that other boards didn't have theirs, director of football or someone similar on in the remuneration for the board. But one thing which I do know is that Everton's board is one of the smallest in the Premier League. Paul, can you confirm this? They ask years on it. That they got, I think they were in the top 8 paid in the league, but they're the smallest. So pound for pound, man to man or woman to woman, they are up there. But I'm sure Paul will be able to shed a bit of light onto that if he can come on. Is he still in? No. I'll try and get him back on in a bit.
Not in now, I don't think.
Yeah,
No.
I'll try and get him back on a bit. But we do know that Kevin Wright took 868, was it? 868 grand as his remuneration is for the director this year. Last year.
Sorry, Chris, he is here. It's just under the desk, so he is in. Paul,
Yeah.
are you there? He's unmuted, but
Might have an internet connection issue.
yeah, I think he's having a problem because he keeps unmuting and then.
But yeah, from what I've seen, I'm no financial expert, but our board are handsomely paid, but they're a lot smaller. I did a thing in the last, actually, the meeting we did in the Outwalk. Like, for instance, I compared them to Wolves' board, Brentford's board and Brighton's board, and they had between 8 and 13 members on their board. And we had Denise, Grant Ingalls, Sharp weighing on it at the time, Bill Kenwright, and even if you count Graham Sharp, that we're like half the size of Wolves' board, but Wolves' board had been paid roughly the same amount. So person to person, pound for pound, they are a very highly paid board.
100% use that with talking about getting the national meet and finding points where people can't, where raising eyebrows are going, oh my god, I can't believe that's true. I didn't know that. But I've known that, then I understand Everton fans anger. I think that's got to be pointed out a lot. That Everton's board are on so much money when as you said, it's tiny compared to other boards, and they're paying themselves far more than other clubs which are just ran superb when you compare them to like Brighton and Brentford and people like that. I think that's definitely something to be using. That fact.
Well, I think another thing to point out is that if you look at Brighton's board, for instance, the CEO of Brighton is a very, very successful man, and the chairman of Brighton is a very, very successful man, and our CEO has got no success, no experience in anything relating to business. She's ran she was head of a charity that was a cash-rich charity when she took over, and she's never had a successful business herself that she's been a shareholder of or a director of. You don't need to take the money. Probably,
It made me laugh when they tried to big her up by saying she's got an MBE, as if that counts for anything, as if anyone gives a shite.
Yeah, that's it. She's, in terms of being a CEO of a football club, she's probably the most inexperienced in the league. But I don't know the facts and the ins and outs of every payment, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's one of the highest paid CEOs based on experience. If you compare it to, who's the CEO head of Brighton? Is it Tony Bloom, or is he the chairman?
Well, am I the CEO knowledge man?
I'm banking on. Yeah,
I've totally forgotten, but I think he used to be head of the FA Partners. I can't remember his name, but he used to be head of FA Partners.
It's Tony Bloom, yeah.
And if you look at Tony Bloom,
he owns the club.
Yeah, if you look at Tony Bloom, for instance, he was the CEO, the chairman. If you look at his career to our board members' career, and you look at their CEOs, the polar opposites. Like, they've had success in everything they've done, and that's why they're sitting on boards of Premier League football clubs. Ours are there because they protect each other and put their arm around each other.
Paul Barber, it is.
Paul Barber, yeah. You Googled that. Yeah.
I have just Googled it. What did you want me to do?
Nice one, Paul. Next, anyone else? Thanks for the question, Paul. Questions and ideas. It is obviously ideas to get. If we can, whether it's via the media, whether it's via something new. We've had all the generic ones. We've had stuff that cost thousands of pounds. It's at the minute we don't need to spend thousands of pounds. There's ways and means of getting what we want. Chris,
can I just a couple of things just off the back of what other people have said? There are members of the media listening. What do you want from us? What do the members of the media want from us? What would provide them with a story? They're the people who have hours of time to fill, whether it be on sports news channels, radio. What do they want from us as fans? I mean, I don't mean like, we'll go and set fireworks off or something, but what do they want from us? What is the story here to be told? Because, and I think this is the same has to be said about fans who aren't coming to the marches and stuff, and without having a go at those people, I do find myself biting my lip at all the people I watch walk up Spellow Lane as I'm walking down Spellow Lane. What will get those people to the marches, or what will get them involved in what we're doing? Because we are fighting for this football club, and I'm not saying they're not, but what will it take to get them involved when, with 8 games of the season to go, we are sadly looking over our shoulder and then looking at the prospect of what happens if we were relegated, which is a real thing that could happen to Everton football this summer. What will take you to get involved? And when I say that, there are at least, let's be honest, there's at least 35,000 people who are going to Goodison Park who are not involved in any way with these marches. What will it take to get these people involved? And I think that's what there's too many people who go, you don't speak for me. Well, who does speak for you? And if we don't speak for you, come and tell us what you've got to say then. What will get you involved in moving this forward? Does it mean, Does it mean you standing on the sides while other people are marching? Does that mean you joining the march higher up the road or by Goodison Park? What will you get? What will it take to get you involved? Because I do think, and I've had these conversations with people on Twitter and stuff when we talk about marches, and they say, well, why do we need to be involved? They're gone now, and it's like, they're not gone. Farmer Series still owns Everton Football Club. Bill Kenwright is still our chairman. Denise Barrett-Baxendale's still our CEO. They haven't gone anywhere. These are still the people at the club, and it's fine people saying, well, they'll be gone at the end of the season. I want them gone now, because I actually think they're just terrible to have at the football club. They're not sound people to have running a football club. And again, it's not a personal thing, but it's, they're lingering around. Like, and I think Katie hit the nail on the head. Like, we're going to change. Like, we're going to go back to going, oh, it's all right, we stayed up. It is absolutely 100% correct that, last season, the day after Arsenal or the day after Crystal Palace, we should have been knocking on doors. We should have been going mad at the football club and the people. This is when we should have drove them out, but we were too tired. A lot of people who did all the protests last year were too tired to carry on. We were just happy with the fact that we'd stayed up. What is going to take everybody to get you motivated to try and get these people away from our club? And that's the question for them. That's the question. I don't think I can ask anyone here who's in here, because everyone who's here is trying to be part of the solution. What is going to take other people to be part of the solution? And those people in the media, what can we do? What can we do? What are your ideas to try and generate more activity in that as well? And going back to what Steve was saying as well, I 100% agree with Steve, and I might upset people with this as well. I think everyone on the fans forum and everyone on the Fab should resign. You're getting nowhere. It's going nowhere. Show these people that we mean business and walk away from this. Walk away, especially the Fab. I'm just ranting and raving, aren't I? The people who are on the Fab and the people who are on the fans forum, as I said, I think personally you should all resign, because you're getting nowhere. They won't even turn up to meetings with you. That might be the thing that gets the media, gives the media a story. You're getting nowhere. You're getting nowhere with them. They won't even turn up to meetings with you.
I asked in the Fab, the fans meetings with the Fab, I asked why the club are glamorising the fact that they've become the first team in the Premier League to have an elected fan advisory board when it was mandatory. Just because they become the first, they were forced to do it because of Tracy, come from Tracy Crouch, didn't it? And they were forced to do it. And he replied to that. He replied to that in the question saying we weren't glamorising it, we was the first. Well, let's make them the first to have the fan advisory board resign.
Exactly, and I think, listen, I know Dave's here and he's from the Fab, and I would never tell anyone to do something, but I just think that's got to be the next thing, is that the fans forum and the Fab just say, we've had enough now. They promised you someone would turn up to a meeting, and they couldn't even hold that promise. They are operating in the dark, so I think that's got to be a step, but that's up for them people. If they don't, listen, I won't fall out with anyone over it, but I just feel like that has got to be the next step that we look to do as a fan base.
Can I respond to that, Ped?
Go ahead, Dave.
Absolutely, Dave.
I don't particularly disagree with you. However, I don't think it's that simple and it's that easy. And I've no problem whatsoever, and I'm under no illusions whatsoever. If the whole of the Fab resign tomorrow, there'd be another election took place, and there'd be another dozen people elected to that position. Because whether we like it or not, Fabs are going to be legislated for. The white paper's being produced. It's going to go before Parliament. It's going to become a condition for every Premier League club to actually have a Fab. So a lot of us could resign tomorrow and walk away tomorrow. I prefer my own personal option in everything and anything I've ever been involved in. It's not to walk away, but to stay and fight. And what I'd say, given the calibre of what I've listened to tonight and the contributions I've heard tonight of people, I'd actually suggest that people who are on this call tonight, who care passionately as I do about Everton Football Club, it's going to be elections in the summer. put yourself forward and get yourself elected. Let's get yourself in a position whereby you can influence it from the inside. I often use the analogy that I sit in the house watching Question Time and put my foot through the telly every time a Labour MP talks a load of shite. And it's quite expensive buying a telly every time Question Time's on. Not even a member of the Labour Party. Be cheaper becoming a member of the Labour Party and trying to influence it from the inside rather than the outside. And let's have no doubt whatsoever, you could have a Fab resigning and getting re-elected every other week. The reality of it is there's going to be fan advisory boards, not just at Everton Football Club, but at every single football club. And all that about Everton being the first was because Denise Barrett-Baxendale sat on the fan-led review, and she wanted Everton to be the first to do it. Is the fan advisory board fit for purpose? No, I don't think it is. I said that at a meeting with the Everton Heritage Society the other week. It's not even the first chapter in what's going to be an extremely long book. They're on the first page. We need to make sure that we're in a position where there's people like us who've got principles and who will challenge these people who are dragging our club down in the mud. And honestly, sincerely, I hope people listening to this call tonight, on this call, who've all been superb, consider putting themselves forward, and let's change the Fab. Let's get the Fab fit for purpose, and let's the Fab in the future not be a box ticking exercise, but a force to be reckoned with.
Dave, can I... Sorry,
go on. So I was just going to say, Dave, I agree with everything you've just said there, and I've been in favour of the Fab the whole time. We had Jazz coming in to the studio to talk about it. I've always been in favour. My opinion is they're just not listening to you, and while they're not listening to you, I think it's, for me, a stance has to be made. But everything you said there is absolutely spot on.
Dave, I was going to say, what reasons did they give you for the not attending the last meeting?
To be honest with you, Steve, one of the problems with the meeting is and was, right, is, and it's probably worthwhile, and we haven't got the time to spend on it, but that meeting had been changed by them. So that was the third time that meeting had got scheduled and rescheduled. It had to go ahead on the 31st because the accounts had to be in the public domain by the 31st. The accounts went out as the meeting had started. Prior to that meeting taking place, I actually asked for copies of any slides or any of the presentations that were getting done, and for a copy of the accounts, and said to the club that you should actually be giving the people who sit on the Fab, given that we've signed non-disclosure agreements, you should be giving us copies of everything you're using, everything you're going to use to discuss at that meeting, and they declined, right? So we turned up at the meeting in the Royal Library buildings, and to say that the executive management team were in a state of shock would be an understatement, because I don't think even they were aware that Graham Sharp and Denise Barrett-Baxendale and or Grant Ingles were not turning up. Now, a lot of people the slagged. Now, the main protagonist in all of this, as far as I'm concerned, is Graham Sharp. It's inexcusable. His function and his role as the director of Everton Football Club is to be the conduit between the Fab and the board. He's attended 2 meetings. In them 2 meetings, he's never once made one single contribution. He's not uttered one single word. He has a notepad in front of him, and the 2 meetings that he's attended, he's never took down one single note. Baxendale is obliged to attend 2. She's attended 1, and if she attends the one in May, she'll have fulfilled her obligations to the Fab. One of the things I've said, I've got no problem with anybody not being there, but they shouldn't be that discourteous that they only put the apologies in when the meeting has just started. And two, if they can't make it, they should at least have the courtesy and the good grace to actually submit a written or a verbal report for someone to present on their behalf. Now, if it's a toss-up between the CEO sitting in a meeting with the FAB or sitting in the Titanic with MSP getting 25% investments into the club, I would suggest that she needs to be in the Titanic with investors, not in the board in the boardroom at the Royal Library buildings. So I get it that they're allegedly really busy people, but it's inexcusable. They are treating the FAB with contempt, and that's why we need to make sure that that FAB is a formidable force who will challenge them every single step of the way.
Cheers, Dave.
David's right. So we'll move on from that. But I think Paul's available.
Coming, you know, Chris.
Yeah, Paul, he's off mute now, so you can crack on and answer that question from early. Did you hear the question, Paul? He did text saying he's having a couple of issues with Teams. He rebooted it. So we'll give him a minute. Next, anybody else got a question or an idea or something you want to bring up?
Chris, I've got my hands up there, mate.
Sorry, Fran, I can't see you. Go on, mate.
Just two things I want to say. It's been really good, informative tonight, and well done to everyone for attending. This is more of a question for you and Katie, this and the 1878 Dave. Saturday, cool, the Royal Oak, the Newcastle game, Royal Oak, I would say it should start somewhere else. The simple reason is these always seem to just come from here, there, and everywhere. These Newcastle fans, and think they can turn up and cause a little bit of mischief. And we've had it the last couple of years where there's been a lot of trouble on the corner of Spellow Lane, as you bend onto Goodison Road and towards the Hot Walk. And with you having the protest peaceful and the way they've gone down, I'm just suggesting that you started somewhere else. I put a suggestion out for the Leeds game. You were going to walk around with the Leeds game, and I said I wouldn't because of the fans of the reputation that Leeds have got. They could cause trouble or whatever. Maybe start at the Spellow or the Brick just for the Newcastle game, just to prevent trouble. I don't know. That's just a suggestion. That's all I'm going to say. And another thing I'm going to ask as well is, there's probably people out there that haven't got involved with these marches and being seen at the marches, because I know by speaking to people that's involved in them that certain people are getting, it's like harassment off the club, because what they're doing is they're watching them inside the game to see if they say a derogatory comment and the behaviour inside the ground. And what's going to happen going forward if the club do decide we're going to target, without naming anyone, a certain individual that's going out the way to make Everton better? Because we're not going to say it's targeted at Bill Kenwright, targeted at Mashiri. You know, it's their football club. They have the final say, yes or no on everything. But if they turn around and say, you know, you're not welcome at Goodison Park no more, what's going to happen then as a group? Are we all going to stick together and not let that happen, or is it just going to be, well, that's a thing? Because I think some people sit on the fence and go, I don't want to lose my season ticket, I don't want to be targeted, because even though you've got a season ticket in your name, it's not actually yours. You're just renting it off the club season by season, and the club rent it to you every year. It's the club's property. They can withdraw that season ticket at the drop of a hat. And I think some people won't get involved because they don't want to take that risk of being targeted by the football club. So is there a plan in place if someone does get targeted, and what will that be?
I'll be honest with you, Fran, that's crossed my mind personally, because I've heard of I think we've heard Alan Stubbs saying he didn't get banned from the ground, but he got, we weren't allowed in, his complimentary ticket stopped and stuff like that. So if people don't want to join in because of that, then that's their decision, innit? We can't force anyone to do it, but it has crossed my mind. And I said this today to someone I was speaking to from the club, who work for the club, that the board and the club keep doing our job for us. And if they do ban someone for doing a peaceful protest, then if they want to ban me, then I'll miss the last few games of the season because it'll do a lot more damage to them than it will to me.
Can I just say as well, Chris, on that one, on your right and what you said, and it's not just sticking together and doing a march, it's sticking together. We can't allow them to identify and single out any individual. I know myself, during the tenure of the previous chief executive, I was on a blacklist, and a member of the senior management team told me, they put you on a blacklist, are you aware of that? Now, they hadn't even told me that I'd gone on it, and I was on a blacklist for 5 years, and they made it incredibly difficult for me to go anywhere or to do anything. And that's the that's the levels that they'll resort to. I don't think personally that they would ban someone from attending games who was a season ticket holder unless they were in breach of one of the many ridiculous regulations that goes hand in hand with your season ticket. But I think we need to be saying loud and clear here and now, if you take one of us out, you take us all out. We all stand together. It's no good saying all together now and then someone gets victimised and then we pat you on the back as we walk past and go into the ground. We all stand together.
Yeah, spot on. That's my take as well, Dave. And yeah, Chris, obviously it's my mind too. For some in this group, like in this call now, do know, because I'm in groups with them. But I personally was watched myself. I know this. I was told from somebody with inside on that day who actually seen them actually looking at me marching down Goodison Road. I think it was the kids march. They watched absolutely every move I made on the camera. And listen, that comes with the territory. You know, if people don't want to put themselves in that position, I totally get it. I understand it. As long as you're not doing anything wrong, you're staying respectful and you're keeping to what they need to be, and you're not stepping out of line, and you're not being like derogatory or personal abuse to any individuals. There's nothing they can do to you anyway, and there's nothing they will do. And I think, as Chris said, it will cause more harm than good. And if they were to do somebody for absolutely nothing and just for doing basically what we're doing, and that's fighting for a better football club, then as Dave said, if one person is targeted, then you're targeting all of us. You know, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. It's as simple as that. You can't pick on individuals. If you pick on one, you pick on everyone, and we stick together as one, because at the end of the day, they're quite happy throwing us under the bus. It's time for us to keep sticking together, make sure we stay respectful, and should anything come of it in a bad way for somebody, then we stand by them. It's as simple as that. That's what we have to do as a fan base. That's what we'll always do.
I know what one of the things they were considering doing when I was blacklisted is they were actually going to hire, believe it or not, a private detective to follow me. And the brief was that maybe he's a benefit sheet or he's touting tickets or something. We've got them on the back foot, so let's get them followed. So that's the nature of the People's Club. That's the great football club that we've dedicated all our lives to supporting. And I'm telling you now, anyone who gets victimised, we're going on them marches. I'm with you 100%.
I think everyone's in the same boat. Brilliant answers, Franny.
Katie, I didn't want to mention your name, but that's what I was aiming at. Yeah, just thanks for clearing that up then. Thank you.
In terms of what you mentioned about Newcastle, Fran, you're right, and we'll have a chat about it. Yeah.
spot on. Yeah,
Just-
thanks for that.
We've got history away from home with them. I just don't know what it is. Over the last couple of years, we seem to just have more trouble with these than anyone, and I don't even know where it's come from myself. But I just don't want to see, used frontline girls getting targeted by, replica shirt wearing dickheads that come down with funny haircuts. Giving it large.
There'll only be 300 of them, but now they're flying. They'll be full away. I'm on it.
It's a very good point, Fran, to be fair, mate. It is a really good point.
Thank you.
What?
Don't want to undo all the good that we've done, do we? Do you know what I mean?
No,
Just
that's what I'm saying.
so.
Just because they'll come down in force. And listen, there's no two ways about it. We'll be marching. They're king of the marches, but they'll laugh and they'll throw jibes at you and things like that, and it's not worth it. You'll get someone on there that'll react and it'll just go tits up then. And then the club then have got a backbone to turn around and say, peaceful protests. There you go. They're not peaceful, are they? One little mistake and then all your work over the last however many months has gone to pot. Just thinking about it logically, that's all.
Nice one, fam. Anyone else quickly before we wrap up?
Yeah, can I do another dead quick one?
Go ahead, Dave.
I really appreciate anyone who's going on that march on Saturday and marching past the food bank without dropping a tin off. I'm going to name and shame them at your next meeting.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah. So seriously, anyone drop a donation off, it'll be gratefully received.
Yeah, all right, sound Dave, thanks.
Yes, just
Chris, can you?
Yeah, go on, Paul.
Can you hear me now?
You can round it up with the answer.
Okay. Sorry I couldn't speak earlier. Absolutely brilliant call. Some fantastic contributions. I think two things, if you don't mind me asking, like probably 60 or 70 fan groups signed the All Together Now open letter. But if you don't mind me saying so, very few of those 60 or 70 groups have actually got involved in the process since then. So anybody that's on here that's representing any of those groups that did sign the All Together Now letter, please get involved, because we need to widen the involvement of fans who no doubt do support what everybody on this call has been talking about and what everybody's been trying to do behind the scenes with the media, on the marches, and everything else. We need a wider support. The support base is there, but we need wider involvement, and we need more people to be involved in more activities. So if you're responsible for an organization or a group that signed the All Together Now letter, contact one of us and see how you can help and how you can get involved and how you can increase the range of activities that this whole campaign wants to do. And the other thoughts I just had whilst listening to everybody here is, if we are about to get new investors, and it seems like we will get new investors in the next 4 weeks, if anybody from the new investors is listening to this, or if any of their representatives are listening to this, get in touch with us and talk to us about what you might think you can bring to the club. But more importantly, listen to us in terms of what we want out of the club going forward, what we want out of the club in terms of its performance, in terms of its governance, in terms of its relationship with the fan base, in terms of its engagement, proper fan engagement, not box ticking engagement. Because if you're buying into, if it's MSP or if it's somebody else and you're buying into Everton Football Club, you're buying into the best fan base in the world, and it should be treated as an asset, not as a liability. Our current owners treat the fan base as a liability, but we're the biggest asset this football club has. So if anybody's listening to this, please get in touch, get involved, and speak to us, and let's talk about how we can all together make Everton a much better football club in the future.
Brilliant, Paul, thanks. I think that sums it up nicely. So well done, everyone. Thanks for everyone's input. It was superb. We'll get the recording out to be shared. Just give us a few days to get it sorted. Nice one. Thanks very much.
Just before we go, there is one question, and it's off Pedro, I think. Sorry, just let me get it up. He says, sorry to reiterate what I said earlier, but does the ESC or NSNO now think the next form of protest or making Everton back on the national agenda? The protests have been tremendous, but strategically, it feels like it needs to be stepped up, albeit in a peaceful way.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think we all agree that, you know, what happens inside Goodison before the game, during the game, after the game, because of the circumstances that the club finds itself in, it's difficult to do stuff inside the ground. But yeah, we should be talking about what else we can do outside of the match time that gets media attention, that applies more pressure to the board and to Farhad and Shiri. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Open to ideas as well.
Yep. Yeah, anyone who's got any ideas, the email address, just make sure I get this right. You can send them in or you can message anyone on Twitter. Email address is processedinfo1878@gmail.com. Right, thanks very much. Good night.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
David,
you.
looks like you need food bank tip there.
I am always giving it my best shot.
See you later, everyone. Thank you.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.